Cleopatra and Mark Antony were buried together. On that much, Plutarch, Cassius Dio, and Suetonius agree. Yet 2,000 years later, no one has securely identified their tomb. Plutarch describes a burial of royal splendor. Cassius Dio places Cleopatra's monument in Alexandria's royal grounds. Suetonius says Octavian ordered the unfinished mausoleum completed. The clues survive, but the royal quarter they point toward was broken by earthquakes, buried beneath streets, and partly claimed by the sea. The tomb may still exist, or it may have vanished long ago. This is Lost Tombs of the Mighty. Tonight, the lost tomb of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. Those accounts were written generations later, under Roman rule. Together they preserve a consistent ancient tradition, not physical proof. But they also preserve two crucial clues. Plutarch places Cleopatra's monument near a temple of Isis. Cassius Dio says she was constructing it within the royal grounds. That points toward Alexandria's palace district, where the Ptolemies buried their kings, and where Alexander the Great was said to lie. The problem is not that the ancient writers told us nothing. It is that their landmarks no longer survive as a usable map. The record did not fall silent. The city changed around it. The missing monument belonged to two figures whose defeat remade the Mediterranean. Cleopatra was the last queen of the Ptolemaic dynasty, the Macedonian Greek line that had ruled Egypt for nearly 3 centuries from Alexandria. She was no figure of mere romance, but a head of state, fluent in many tongues, fighting to preserve her dynasty and Egypt's independence. Mark Antony was both her partner and political ally, a Roman triumvir and one of Rome's most powerful commanders, pursuing his own struggle for supremacy. Against them stood Octavian, Julius Caesar's adopted son and heir, determined to destroy his last rival and rule the Roman world alone. The reckoning came at sea, off the coast of Greece, near a promontory called Actium. There the navy of Antony and Cleopatra met Octavian's fleet, and there their cause was broken. They withdrew to Alexandria, their chances of recovery collapsing. When Octavian's forces reached the city the following year, much of their remaining military strength defected or surrendered. A kingdom that had survived nearly 3 centuries of war and dynastic crisis ended in a matter of days. What remained was not a battle, but an ending. The last hours of a queen who understood, with terrible clarity, that there would be no rescue. What came next deserves restraint rather than spectacle. Antony, believing all was lost, took his own life. Cleopatra outlived him only briefly before she too chose death over the humiliation her enemy had planned. How exactly she died, no one can truly say. The famous story speaks of a venomous snake smuggled past her guards, yet Plutarch, who recorded the tradition, admitted that the truth was never known. Other accounts speak of poison concealed in a hollow comb. The image of the asp endures because it is haunting, not because it is certain. Octavian soon had Caesarion, Cleopatra's son, whom she presented as Julius Caesar's child, captured and killed. Alexandria, in Cleopatra's day, was one of the greatest cities of the ancient Mediterranean. Along its vast harbor stretched a royal quarter of palaces and temples, gardens and colonnades. Within it stood a sacred enclosure holding the tombs of the Ptolemaic kings, and, it was said, the body of Alexander the Great himself. This was the natural setting for a royal burial, the heart of dynastic power. If Cleopatra's monument became the shared tomb described by the ancient writers, then their strongest clues point toward this rebuilt and half-drowned district, though not to any surviving spot within it. That district can no longer be searched as an intact ancient city. In the centuries after Cleopatra's death, Alexandria was rebuilt, fought over, and slowly betrayed by the ground beneath it. Earthquakes shook the coast, the land subsided, the sea moved inland, and parts of the royal quarter slipped beneath the waves, while the rest disappeared under the streets of a living city. Some structures that survived the water and the centuries may have been broken open and emptied long ago. A tomb intended to endure had become a rumor with no address. Still, the search has not ended. In recent decades, divers have explored Alexandria's eastern harbor, where part of the ancient royal quarter now lies submerged. They have mapped a sunken world of fallen columns, statues, sphinxes, and paving. The palace district where Cleopatra once walked. They have raised Ptolemaic sculpture from the seabed into the light. It is breathtaking work. These finds reveal how much of Cleopatra's world survives, and how difficult it is to identify one lost monument among countless ruins. Yet no structure has been securely identified as the tomb of Cleopatra and Antony. The answer remains beyond reach. A disputed alternative has drawn worldwide attention. About 30 miles west of Alexandria lies Taposiris Magna, an ancient city and Ptolemaic temple complex associated with Osiris and Isis, the goddess with whom Cleopatra publicly identified herself. Since 2005, archaeologist Kathleen Martinez has argued that Cleopatra may have been buried there. The discoveries are remarkable, but they are not proof. Coins bearing her image, elite burials with gilded decoration, Ptolemaic statuary, a vast rock-cut tunnel, and, more recently, a submerged harbor offshore. None identifies Cleopatra's burial. No chamber or burial inscription names her, and many specialists still consider Alexandria the likelier setting. That caution matters because Cleopatra has always been easy to reshape into whatever a storyteller needs. Much of what the world remembers about her comes through writers of the Roman era. They inherited traditions shaped by Octavian's victory, traditions that cast her as a temptress rather than a sovereign. At its best, the search for her tomb is an attempt to meet the real woman beneath the legend. A verified burial could add material evidence to a story preserved mainly through later, politically shaped texts. And it carries a quiet duty. Whatever lies beneath the harbor or the desert sand deserves patience and respect. For the dead, for a fragile heritage, and for the living city above the ruins. So the question remains open, 2,000 years on. A queen and her Roman ally buried together by order of the man who defeated them. A mausoleum built to endure, swallowed so completely by time that no one can say whether it lies beneath the sea, the streets, or the sand. Perhaps one day a diver's lamp will catch its edge. Perhaps it is already gone. Until then, Cleopatra keeps her last secret. Next time we follow another conqueror into legend, Attila the Hun, said to have been sealed in nested coffins of gold, silver, and iron, in a grave so well hidden that it has never been found.